50 million followers on Twitter. She's the most popular Twitterer in the world. I wasn't entirely sure that people would know who Katy Perry was, so I picked Justin Bieber, who is the second most popular Twitterer in the world. He has almost 50 million followers, and I'm sure that you have heard many disastrous celebrity tweet situations. So that's, Twitter gives you a public stage, whether you're a celebrity or not. I would encourage you to not use it the way Alec Baldwin has, but that's your own business. So here's Justin Bieber's page. So it gives you a little bit of an idea that Zappos can make their page look one way, Justin Bieber can make his page look another way. Twitter can be just like it's Zappos' public stage and just like it's Justin Bieber's public stage, it can be your public stage. So here is the Twitter account of a professor in New York City. He uses his byline to tell his job. Your location is auto-populated. You can change what it says, but there's a place for your location in your byline. And you'll notice that he also has a URL in his byline. That's his own personal website. And that's one of the great things about Twitter. That's why Twitter can be used to control your Google search results, because you can put the portfolio URL for your own personal portfolio there, and that's driving that portfolio up in your search results. And you can see that he's tweeting, looks like an article, looks like a couple of different articles. That's the sort of resource sharing that I'd recommend that you do in order to establish your digital brand on Twitter. And we'll talk about that a little bit more with some other examples in a minute. Just like we talked about the sort of basic elements of LinkedIn, the basic elements of Twitter are that you have a profile. We just looked at a profile. We looked at Zappos profile, Justin Bieber's profile, professor from New York profile. So you can control that profile. You can control what it says. You can control your profile picture. You can control your background picture. Two different background pictures. In LinkedIn, you have connections. And on Facebook, you have friends. And on Twitter, you have followers. I think that followers makes you feel more important than any of the other terms. So that's fun. When you tweet something, when you make a status update on Twitter, it's called a tweet, and it's only 140 characters long. So Twitter has, I think one of the ways that Twitter established itself in the social media world is that it was unusual because you had to be so brief. And a lot of people, that's what they like about Twitter. You can reply to other people's tweets. You can retweet what other people have already tweeted. And you can direct message people, which is a private messaging function. Direct messages are not public, but everything else is. You can set your account so that your tweets are protected, but that's not really going to help you establish your digital identity. But just in case you're super worried about privacy, there is that option. So these are the basic elements of Twitter. The interesting thing about Twitter is that Twitter has a sort of whole culture that has evolved out of it. People who get connected via Twitter and don't know each other than that, and then pick a time to meet and talk with each other. They call those meetings tweet-ups. And there are at least 100 words based on the word tweet that have been appropriated by people who use Twitter a lot. So this is another professor's profile. Again, she's tweeting some resources here. That's a helpful list that she's tweeting. You can tell she's a little bit of a pro because she says in her first tweet here that she's at a conference and she doesn't know the hashtag. Hashtags are also something that Twitter invented. And we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks when we do our in-depth look at Twitter. You can use Twitter without using hashtags, and hashtags, I think, they're maybe on the way out. I think they irritate a lot of people at this point. But when they were first invented, they were still a really helpful way to, in that search box, you can put a hashtag in the search box and see every tweet that somebody has tagged with a particular hashtag. So for those of us who are using Twitter professionally, if you are at a conference and you're tweeting about a session that you're in, passing on resources that you got at that session, and you include the conference hashtag or the session hashtag, then I, as somebody in the field who's interested in those resources, can search for that conference hashtag and read all about the conference. So Twitter becomes a little bit of a professional newsletter if you use hashtags in a way that kind of promotes your membership in a professional community. So there are all sorts of aspects of Twitter that you can use really well as a professional. You don't have to be an obsessive tweeter in order to tweet one resource a week, or maybe go to a conference and tweet about that conference using that hashtag. So why use Twitter? And I'm sort of aware that I have to sell Twitter a little bit more than I have to sell LinkedIn. The big killer app of Twitter is the byline, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But as students, again, you can establish your presence as a professional by getting a Twitter account and tweeting professional resources. If a professor recommends a book in a class, you can tweet that book out. If you're reading an article for a class and you think that that's a good article and you think other people in the field should be aware of it, you can tweet the link to that article out. Our own dean here at the School of Social Work doesn't use Twitter as often, but she uses Facebook for this purpose. She has a very high volume of professional resource sharing that she does on her Facebook feed. And it's a real gold mine for someone who's a member of that professional field. So you can really build your presence as somebody who's contributing to the field by sharing resources. And because Twitter is a public platform and Facebook is hidden sort of behind a garden wall for most people, you have to be their friend in order to see their updates. Twitter is the best platform to use to share professional resources because your tweets can be seen by anybody who is Googling you, and they can click onto your Twitter profile page, see the kinds of things that you tweet, and begin to think about you in a sort of professionally branded way, because your profile picture looks professional, you're tweeting high quality articles and other resources, you're establishing yourself as a professional online, which is what digital identity is all about. For faculty, again, same sort of thing. You are an expert, you are aware of resources that other people should be aware of. If you would tweet out those resources, you would very easily build your identity as an expert. You can also be a resource to students. A lot of faculty around the country are doing that. Their students follow them, and their students and other community members are greatly helped by some of the things that they're sharing on Twitter. When you're a community partner, the payoff is obvious. You're tweeting resources for people, and they're perceiving you as a place that they can go to get help and to get more information. Okay, so here's that killer app aspect of Twitter, which is what we call the byline. So I've got a couple of examples up here. So again, this is a professor. She talks about, so this is that that little box at the top of your Twitter profile. And all of this is your byline. As you can see, this is the place where Twitter tells where you're living. You can control what it says there. Everybody's got this sort of byline space. It has 140 characters in it. You can say whatever you want. A lot of people do list their jobs. And then a lot of people do list a couple of sentences or a couple of phrases that sort of helps you know them a little bit better, what their interests are. So this is an astronomy professor. She's figuring out how the universe makes stars, and she's trying to make astronomy more seamless and STEM education more fun. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. And then she is using her URL space for her profile at her university. So you can use your URL space for your LinkedIn profile, for your portfolio URL. And this is how you use Twitter to pop your name up for your Twitter profile page, or for your LinkedIn profile page, or for your portfolio profile page at the top of your Google search results, instead of other things that you don't want there. This is especially helpful to you if you have a common name. If you have a really common name, it can be really hard to get yourself up in the search results. If you use something like your middle initial or a title, if you are a professor and you are a doctor, if you use doctor in front of your full name, and then populate your portfolio with that, your LinkedIn profile with that, your Twitter profile with that, and put all those links in all of those places, that will pop your name up. And that's what we're after with building your digital identity and helping people find what you want them to find when they Google your name. Here's another example, also a professor. You'll notice that he's using his picture to promote his book. He's also using his URL to promote his book. This is another professor and sort of a famous kind of celebrity professor. Again, he's got his URL in his URL spot. These are also great examples of what to do and what not to do with your sort of cover photo on Twitter. And we'll talk more about those images when we talk in a couple of weeks and really explore Twitter. This is my Twitter profile box. So you'll notice that I've got my Twitter handle, and then my byline is also my byline on LinkedIn. It's also my byline on my portfolio. And then I've got my portfolio address here. So everything about my digital identity is absolutely identical. And when you Google me, those are the things that come up. So I've worked pretty hard at that, and it didn't take very long to control my Google search results. Okay, so if I have convinced you to get a Twitter account, we're going to be doing more on Twitter in a couple of weeks. I will talk to you about how to pick your Twitter handle, which is a little bit of a hard job at this point. Most likely your name is taken. And so then we need to be creative about how to get a Twitter handle that you can use in other places, that is professional, that represents who you are. So we want to think really carefully about that. We want to think about your email address. We want to think about what you would call your portfolio and be choosing a Twitter handle that matches your digital identity. So that's a little bit of a hard task, and we'll talk about how to do that. Again, I'll give you step-by-step instructions about that. Talk about joining Twitter, how to do that, how to add followers, how to tweet, how to retweet, how to reply, how to block users. There are 2 different ways, and one of them doesn't really work. So if you're interested in blocking users, you would want to come to that workshop. We'll also talk about direct messages. We'll talk about other things like your profile picture, your cover photo, your background photo. Those are all communicating your brand, and you want to make those choices really thoughtfully. So we'll talk about all of those things. Okay, so next is one of the more difficult aspects of the 3 tools that we've talked about today. Joining Twitter takes 3 minutes. Joining LinkedIn and populating your profile so that it looks like you've put a little bit of effort into it and getting all of those connections takes a couple of more hours, maybe 30 minutes at a time spread over a month. Creating a portfolio is the most time-consuming of the 3. It doesn't have to be a project that you work on all the time. You don't have to have a portfolio that is many, many, many pages long. You can have a single-page portfolio or a 3-page portfolio that does just as good a job of representing your digital identity, your online brand, as my portfolio does. And my portfolio is, you know, I don't know, probably at least 50 pages long. Your portfolio does not have to be that long. So while making a portfolio is the most time-consuming, it also does the best job of popping your name up in the way that you want to when someone Googles your name. So what is a portfolio? It's basically a digital showcase of your professional accomplishments. And it's based on those big black artist portfolios. Do you know what I mean? So here's a picture of an artist's portfolio. Some people have them in bound books. Here's a model's portfolio. So when you think about portfolios as collections of your greatest work that you want the world to see and that you want people to be aware of in terms of your professional mastery, this is a good image to have in your mind. It's just like those big leather black folders that artists used to carry around. Your portfolio is that put online. And it has an obvious advantage just right off the bat, because if I was an artist 20 years ago and I had my black leather portfolio that I would carry around, I could only show it to one person at a time. If I'm showing it to someone here in this building, I cannot show it to someone in Hillsborough at the same time if it's a physical black leather portfolio. But when my portfolio is online, an unlimited number of people can look at it at the same time. So that's an advantage of a portfolio right there. A portfolio has just a handful of parts that are similar across all portfolios. Most portfolios have a home page that welcomes readers, orients readers as to what they would find in a portfolio. Think of it like a narrative table of contents. It also has an about page that tells you about the portfolio owner, who they are, where they're from, what they've done. About pages usually have a photo and a bio on them. Most portfolios have a contact page so that you can either fill out a form to contact the person or lists all of their contact information so that you can contact them in a variety of ways. I would definitely recommend the contact page that lists all of your ways to contact you. On my portfolio, I have listed my LinkedIn profile page URL, my Twitter profile page URL, my Facebook profile page URL, my Flickr profile page URL, along with my email address and my telephone number. And that's one of the ways that my name pops up the way I want it to when people Google me. So in addition to those sort of 3 pretty standard ways that you see whenever you go to a website, portfolios have a couple of other things. They usually have pages that are organized around a certain subject area. So for a faculty member, our subject areas are teaching, research, and service. So we'd have 3 landing pages. We'd be linking off of those landing pages, like on our teaching landing page, we'd be linking to all the classes that we taught. And each one of those classes would have a page. if you were, say, a social work student, you might want to have a portfolio that had landing pages for the different competencies that CSWE has for all social work students. You might also, if you were in a human service field, want to have a portfolio that had a landing page for your employment experience, a landing page for your volunteer experience, a landing page for the courses that you've taken. A lot of times people have links on their portfolio to their resume, or if you're a faculty member, to your CV. So landing pages are generally about certain subject areas and have lots of links on them to accomplishment pages. And accomplishment pages talk about specific accomplishments. Like for me, it might be teaching a specific class. So I'd have a page where I talked about that class, and I'd have links to my syllabi and my assignments. If I was a student and I had a landing page about my internships, I would have links to my first practicum and my second practicum. If I was, say, student teaching in a classroom and I had lesson plans that I made, I would upload those those lesson plans as evidence in my portfolio. So landing pages and accomplishment pages are really flexible tools that can fit whatever area you want to showcase for your own professional field and your own area. So I've got a couple of examples here. This is a professor. You'll notice that she's got home about research and scholarship, teaching and learning, and she happens to be an ePortfolio expert, so she's also got an ePortfolio tab. For her, her contact information is on her About page. This is another person who has a professorial type job. She also does a lot of technology work. So she's got teaching and research. She's also an ePortfolio expert. So you can see that portfolios can look really different from one another. I showed you Daniel Gilbert's Twitter page before. This is Daniel Gilbert's portfolio. I happen to be showcasing his CV page. This is another person in an academic field. She is a professor, and she's got a lot of links, some of which are kind of the traditional landing pages for professors around teaching. She's got a teaching statement. She's got professional development. But she's got a lot more landing pages, and one would assume a lot more pieces of evidence. So it's kind of nice to see different examples so that you can get an idea for that portfolios can look really different and that you have a lot of personal choice in what your portfolio looks like. Again, this is somebody who works in educational technology. These are her landing pages. When you click on those headings, you get examples of her work as a web and publication content writer. I think this is a good looking page. She's also got some landing pages up on the right-hand side. So it's a little bit of a distributed set of navigation points. This is my portfolio. You'll notice I have landing pages down the left-hand side here. So I've got home and about. I've got my portfolio. If you clicked my portfolio, because I'm a faculty member, I have teaching and service, things like that. I have my CV. I have a tab for students where I put resources for students, and then I have a contact tab. So why use portfolios? Portfolios are more work. You have to put more content up. If you want your own URL, you have to pay for your own URL. So portfolios are sort of the steepest learning curve of the three tools that I'm talking about today. But they do the most good in terms of controlling your Google search results. So the reason for everybody to use a portfolio is that it's the best way to control your Google search results. Also, for everybody, it's the best way to really showcase your professional accomplishments in a deep way. I just was given an article by one of our faculty here at the School of Social Work, Dr. Charlotte Goodluck, stating that more than 50% of employers are currently interested in looking at portfolios of job applicants because they find that they get a better look at the evidence that someone actually has the skill for the job that they're applying for. So we're really starting to see employers preferring the really deep look at your accomplishments that portfolios provide. So that's the reason for everybody to have a portfolio. For students, portfolios do something really nicely that students, I think, can take great advantage of. And that is that portfolios are a strengths-based medium. You design your portfolio, so you can highlight the professional accomplishments that you have. And portfolios are not an objective standard. So you can mention the things that you are really good at, that you have a lot of experience in, that you are really accomplished at, and you don't have to point to the areas that you have not gotten experience in yet. It's a strengths-based medium. So you can build a portfolio that showcases all of your strengths and all of your mastery, and you build a very impressive professional digital identity for yourself in ways that aren't necessarily true with other platforms like LinkedIn that has lots of spaces for you to list all of your jobs. And maybe you haven't had any jobs in the field, but you have a lot of volunteer experience in your field. And so you can represent that on your portfolio in a very impressive way that isn't necessarily true with other mediums. For faculty are already required to have portfolios. They're just paper portfolios. Faculty have to go up for review at least a few times in their career. Sometimes they have to go up every year. And they make a paper portfolio with those kinds of tabs as landing areas for teaching and service. If you make a portfolio online, you have to do a lot less work in the future when you have to keep building that portfolio. If you make the portfolio once, you can continue to add to it, but you don't have to remake it and repackage it in paper every time you do it. So it's a lot greener. You're not killing lots of trees to make lots of notebooks. That's the other thing that I mentioned earlier. If you're a faculty member and you make an electronic portfolio, it can be reviewed by the P&T committee as well as by external reviewers all at the same time. There's no FedExing huge notebooks across the country. Also, promotion and tenure, which is the committee that faculty present their paper portfolios to, those committees will go electronic shortly, I would say in the next 10 years. So make your portfolio now and beat the Christmas rush, because very shortly someone is going to make it electronic. So get started now, and it will be a lot easier when it goes that way. For community partners, the generation of folks who are coming into the world now and seeking the types of resources that our community partners offer, those folks expect content online before they get into a face-to-face relationship. And so they want to see what your agency can do for them, what resources you have at your agency for them before they come to your location and pay for your services. So here is an example of a student portfolio. This is one of my favorite student portfolios because the student looks so crazy accomplished, I can't hardly stand it. So this student has her landing pages across the top. She's got a welcome page, a philosophy statement page, a goals page, a work showcase page, a resume page, and some links, a page with links and supporting materials. This is her work showcase page. She has other pages linked off the left-hand side here. So you can see that she's got 7 or 8 different accomplishments that she's showcasing. If I clicked on this, I'd get a page that looked very similar to this. talking about her public service internship. This happens to be her internship in a senator's office. This is a great example of somebody who is still in school, but yet has a lot of really impressive work that she's showcased.